In this section, we are discussing about what is a module in JavaScript. Normally, when you create an application, there are huge number of lines of coding involved. Ideally, you try to divide the coding into meaningful pieces. JavaScript gives you a way where you can create a module which you can export or import as per your requirement. Especially with ES6 version, there are two important statements: export and import. Using these statements, you can work with module implementation. Before we discuss about variety of modules and importing and exporting, I would like to show you a practical way, the simpler way to configure how we can import or export modules. Normally, when you are working with frameworks like React or Angular, you do use import or export directly. The reason is there is a development server running. But if you try to do it with core JavaScript, then it isn't that easy as well. Let me show you why am I saying this. Let's say this is your index.html where you want to show some content. I'll say h1, some content of the page. Now let's say we want to include the script, but not with the traditional way, but you want to use the import and export statement. Let's say I'm creating one kelsey.js where I have a function called kelsey. Now inside this, I just want to display a message that module code executed. Because we want that this should be treated as a module, you need to export this. So I'm going to write export here. So I'll say export function and the function name. The next thing is, if we need to use the function which is defined in the kelsey.js, then you need to import it here. But if you directly try to import using the import statement, let me try that here. I'll say import. What is the name of the function that I can use? So I'm going to say kelsey. If you want to import with a different name, that is also possible. And that's what I said in the beginning about various other syntaxes. But at the moment, we assume that everything is same. So I'll say import. What I want to import is something called kelsey. Let me also remind you that this curly brackets which I am using is actually the named import. But we will see all these intricacies as we go on. At the moment, I want to show you the basic import statement which can work with your index.html file. Here I just use curly brackets, and then where is the file? It's file in the same folder and the file name is kelsey. Now let's just try to call the kelsey function and see what happens. I'll open the browser and try to open the index.html. So this is the folder where we have the file and this is the content which is displayed, and you see that there is some error coming. It says that cannot use import statement outside a module. The reason behind this is when you are using the script tag, you have to mention that you are going to import the module here. So I'm going to say type is equal to module. Now let's try to run the code and see whether it is running or not. Now comes an error saying that access to the script at whichever path it is from origin null has been blocked by the CORS, that is cross origin resource sharing policy. This means when you want to run the module file with the import and export, you need to run some server. So what you can do to try this, what I have done here is I have configured the web server for Chrome inside my Google Chrome application, and I'm going to choose the folder here. So I'll say this is the folder which I want to make as a server. That will be my web server path. So, and then I'm going to switch it on. Once I switch it on, it shows me the URL as well. So what I can do, I can open this URL. Let me do that. So I'm going to say 127.0.0.1. The port number is 8887. So now we are running a web server. So there will not be any issue. And you see that it displays module code executed. So first thing is that if you want to try import or export statement with your normal HTML and JavaScript file, you'll have to make sure that you are running a web server. Then it will work the way you expect. So this was the basic syntax. Now let's talk about the relative questions of this topic. The first question is already what is a module? So when we say a module, that means that you have a provision in the newer version of ES6. We also had provision in older versions, but there was no directly import or export statement. So now we have import and export statement, which allows you to export a module which can be reused as and when required. When we say a module, that means you are dividing your code into various logical pieces, and when required, you just import it and start using it. That's what a module is all about. The second question is, can you import any module inside the script tag? Of course you can. The only thing is that if you write script like this, then this is the error we faced. To avoid this particular error, what we did, we write like this, where you have script type is equal to module. Once you have this type equal to module attribute, that means now you have a provision to import the modules here. The next question is, how will you run the import and export statements on a local machine? Alright, so as long as import and export statements running on local machine is concerned, you need to have a server. Normally when you upload your site on respective servers, you do not have any problem running these statements. Also, when you work with frameworks like Angular or React, then there is something called Webpack or related build tool which will run the development server. So you are not worried about running import export statement directly. But when you try this import and export statement with simple HTML and JavaScript, then yes, if you are running it on local machine, you have to have some or the other server. To temporarily run this, you can simply configure the Chrome web server and that will do the job. This is how we did it. So this can be the answer for the question of running the import and export on local machine.